This is going to be my entire editing outreach strategy in 2026. My name's Sayeef Ahmed. I've edited for some of the largest YouTubers in the world, and I've helped over 300 editors go full-time and scale their income. This strategy is a data-driven approach, meaning you'll understand how to get replies, if you aren't getting replies, how to fix that, and most importantly, how to know what the highest leverage change in your outreach strategy is going to be in order for you to get a more consistent client base and more consistent income. Client acquisition is sort of like water in a pipe. You've got an input here, it's got to get through all these parts, and out the other end, water flows out. But if there's a blockage anywhere in the pipe, water's not going to get through. But if there's two blockages, let's say there's a block at the beginning and the end, it doesn't matter if you get rid of the block at the end. If there's a block at the beginning, it's still going to have no water going through. So this is the theory of constraints. It's asking ourselves, what is the single greatest improvement that we can make to unblock and allow more water to go through? So let's talk about how to implement this in an editing outreach system. In an editing outreach system, you have three parts. You have lead generation, which is your ability to find people to contact. You have outreach messaging, which is you reaching out to those people in a way that gets them to respond positively. And then you have the actual closing process, getting these people who have responded to actually pay. You may need to have all three of these in place in order for a client system to be running, because without any one of them, the whole thing falls apart. If you don't have people to reach out to, doesn't matter if you're closing 100%, you might only get one or two people every few months. If you aren't able to get them to respond, doesn't matter how many people you reach out to, or how many people you close, no one's responding. Or let's say you're reaching out to a lot of people, they're all responding, but nobody's actually paying you, like the deal always falls through. Well, it's not imaginary money that's going to pay the bills. We're actually trying to get paid here. So we need to have all three parts to actually get through. Now, how do you know which one is your problem, and how do you optimize them to actually get as many people through the funnel so you get a lot of clients at the end? In order to do that, I've created a free outreach tracker. It's the same one that we use inside our paid editing program. Go into the description, get it now, it's completely free, but it'll allow you to actually track your metrics while we're going through the process. In fact, I've brought it up here. This is literally what you get in the description. The way that this outreach tracker works is we are going to be tracking how far each lead gets to. If someone responds, make sure we know that they responded. If someone actually gets to the point where we give our prices, we say that. If someone actually pays us, we say that. Because that way, we can figure out from each step what percentage is getting through. For example, in this case, the person messaged 43 people, got 12 responses using our system, meaning they had a 27% reply rate, meaning if 100% of water is at the first stage, 27% is getting through the first pipe. Out of that 27%, 33% of that is actually getting pitched their price. And then from those 33%, 25%, so 1 in 4, are actually saying yes to their prices. So can you see we started with 100, well, in this case we started with 43, and we ended up with 1. So the overall yield, meaning how much actually gets through the entire system, is 2.3%, which is pretty good for an outreach system. What that means is on average, you can expect to message 40 to 50 people with this person's current outreach strategy, and they know they can get a client by the end of it. The beauty of knowing your metrics like this is you now know what is working, but more importantly, what's not working, so you can put less effort towards that. So here's how you actually implement it once you have the tracker and you're ready to outreach. I want you to send pretty much as much volume as you can. The reason volume is so important in any outreach system is because at small numbers of data, 1 or 2 pieces can heavily skew what the metrics look like. For example, if you've only sent 30 outreach messages, just 2 replies is the difference between a 3% reply rate, which is terrible, and a 10% reply rate, which you can work with. You should never have 2 replies that affect the metric that much. And what really drove this home for me was when I was trying to learn how to become more social. Some days I'd feel super social, some days I would feel like everyone hates me, and it wasn't because my social skills were off, it's just because I was barely speaking to anyone. Let's say you only speak to 3 people a day. If one of those conversations go bad, that feels like a third of your conversations for the day have gone bad. God forbid you only speak to one person. If that one person has a bad experience with you, imagine it's a stranger, you randomly spoke to them and they weren't that receptive. It now feels like the entire world is against you because 100% of people have actually not interacted with you. Compared to, let's say you spoke to 30 people for the day, if 5 of them have a bad experience, you still know you have 25 people where you had a positive experience with them. So whenever I feel like I've had a negative experience with someone because I was trying to be more social, let's say I've just gone to a cafe and they weren't responsive, in my head, all I'm thinking is, hey, regression to the mean, if I just put in more inputs, the mean will actually emerge and it will turn out that this date isn't that bad. Because let's say I have 3 bad interactions in a row, completely normal. But if I had another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, the average will emerge and it'll turn out, hey, about 90% of conversations usually go pretty well. So once we've gotten enough data, we're going to find that certain methods are more effective than others. The overall close rate will be different. All we're going to do once we've done a ton of outreach is we're going to lean down our operations. Let's say you have 2 buttons. One button makes you $100 every time you click it, and the other button makes you $1. Which one are you going to click? You would be an idiot, and anyone would be an idiot if they said they'd keep clicking the $1 button. Instead, you would click the $100 button as much as possible until it stops working. An outreach strategy is the exact same way. Now that you've found the different buttons, different platforms, different methods, you're going to see which one has the best metrics, which means getting you the best clients. And you're just going to send more of that one and stop sending the ones that weren't working. This is how, for this guy's outreach tracker, he sent 43 messages and he's gotten a client out of it. There was another, I think it was April, I think it was Feb or March. Let me bring it up. Yep. So in Feb, he sent 33 messages, got a client out of it. In March, sent 41 messages, got 2 clients out of it. You'll see that there's a lot of consistency because we did this method for him. What happened previously was he sent, I believe it was 400 or 500 messages, still got 5 clients by the end of it, but 400 to 500 messages for only 5 clients is stupid. It's a waste of time. Well, not a waste of time because you had to do it to get the metrics, but to continue to send that many messages is silly. So what we did is we said, hey, there's these 2 methods that are literally crushing for you, dude. Why not just keep doing that? For him, those methods were effective. For other people, it's something completely different. The thing with portfolios and branding and outreach messaging and response rates, it's such a infinitely complex system that you'll never be able to guess what's going to work, which is why we do the testing, we find out what's working, and then we lean down and focus on what is and remove what isn't. And if you're wondering, how do I actually find these clients? To explain that, I want to tell you a story about the last time I was in Morocco. I'm traveling in Morocco right now, but this is the last time, about a year ago. I used to be super insecure about wearing glasses outside. I used to hate how I look. I thought I looked like a nerd. I just felt super insecure about it. So oftentimes I would just go out without wearing glasses. And because I couldn't actually see much, well, it's not terrible, but like it's pretty bad, I wouldn't actually be able to see when someone's looking at me. I could tell if I squint, but I don't want to be walking around like the whole of society looking like this. So I would be pretty antisocial. And now when I went to Morocco, I realized that for the first 1-2 days, I was basically speaking to no one. Even in my home country, I could figure out how to speak to random people. But in Morocco, it felt like no one was talking to me. And I'm thinking, hey, it might just be the culture here. And no one really speaks to each other. And then I actually put in contacts for the first time. I brought contacts to the trip, but I was scared of putting the lenses in because I'd never done it before and I didn't want to like mess up my eyes in case I have some medical emergency in another country. So I'm like, okay, let's just try it one time. I go out, I can finally see and I don't have glasses on, but I can see perfectly. I had so many social interactions that day where I would speak to like some random person in the cafe, literally just cold approaching some random people. Literally just, I remember there was once me and one of my editor friends, he's one of the guys that I coached from 0 to 10K a month. We were just sitting in a restaurant, we were traveling, and there was this girl who literally was just like using a camera, recording, vlogging. And I noticed the camera and I was like, hey, is that the DJI like Osmo 3? We had a conversation, she taught us a ton of things and it was super fun. I would have never had that experience if I literally wasn't able to see. The thing is, it's not that me having contacts created the opportunities. It's not like these social people weren't there. It's just that I couldn't see the opportunities. In the same way with where do I find the clients, it's not that the clients aren't there. It's not that no one's hiring. It's not that your niche doesn't pay. It's that when we're struggling, we don't see the opportunities there. Because I promise you, once you're working with the largest people, you're going to be looking at it like, damn. First of all, these people are everywhere. Second of all, editing is not saturated. Like, these people have me as an editor, I'm doing well, and they're actively trying to find more editors to bring on, and they're struggling. Like, yes, there's tens of thousands of editors, but basically everyone is struggling to find a good editor. So when it comes to finding these clients to outreach to, look at any social platform. If you can find humans who create content on a platform, you can use that as a lead generation method. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, School, Meta Ads Library, Reddit, I'm not sure if I've already said that, Twitter, like any of them you can use, because if there's humans who create content on the platform works. If you're not finding good clients on there, it's because you're just not sure how. But in the meanwhile, while you are figuring it out and trying to get it to work, how do you stay motivated in order to actually keep outreaching when things aren't working? I remember when I was first starting to edit, it was around 17 years old. I got into it as a hobby, then I started doing client work, I'm making like a few thousand a month. And I remember my goal when I was 17. I told myself by the time I'm 18, so at the end of 18 years old, I want to be on a 100k a year salary. I want to be able to make six figures. Now, I was so obsessed over this, my phone wallpaper used to be 17, 100,000 pounds. Every single time I would feel demotivated to outreach, I would look at that and be like, yeah, that's a goal worth hitting. I would be in social situations, my phone would just be on the table, a random guy or girl would just accidentally see it because they either clicked on it or a notification came up. I didn't really have notifications. Usually they just check my phone for some reason. But they would see like the 17, 100,000 pounds. And there wasn't really any context. So they would ask me, what does that mean? And I would sort of shy away from it because I didn't want to seem like some big-headed, egotistical bastard. But I would explain like, hey, it's my goal. It's like something that's important to me. And basically everyone would say like, okay, like, oh, so real. Or like they'd take the piss out of it, not really believing that it was possible. I had my first 10k month at 17 years old. It was a month before I turned 18. And 18, like that year, was when I had my first six-figure year. So yes, outreaching fucking sucks. So does working a normal job. So does being poor. So does not having the clients that give you consistency in your income. And in terms of actually finding the time to outreach, it's super simple. Yes, it takes more upfront, but once you've leaned down and focused on what's working, you're going to realize it takes a lot less time than you think. In fact, all throughout my career, I have outreached. From when I started, I got my first few clients through outreach. Well, except the first one. The first one was actually just some random guy messaging me. But most of my first clients were outreach. Even when I got to 5k a month, I was still outreaching. Even when I hit my first 10k months, I was still outreaching. That's why I was able to keep it consistent. You find the time to outreach. And here's the thing, you don't need to put it on a pedestal where it's like this crazy, crazy hard task. You just find the time. There was a guy, his name's Tamim. I don't think he'll mind me saying this. There was a time when I asked him to outreach because that's what was required for his career at the time. He was only making like a K or two at a time. And he mentioned that, hey, I don't have the time because I'm working on client projects, I'm busy, I'm going to a gym, etc. I asked him, no worries, pull up your phone real quick. Do you have it near you? He said, yeah. I'm like, okay. If you swipe, you'll see your screen time. Pull that up for me real quick. We both just kind of smiled. He didn't end up doing it because he knew where I was going with it. But he knew he had the time. It's just a question of priorities. Because all of us, if we were watching this, you are already spending 30 minutes, an hour, maybe multiple hours a day on your phone, just consuming. So why not spend just a little bit of that time towards getting the clients you need for your career? Because even if it's just while you're sitting in the car, someone else is driving, setting some outreach. Hey, you're waiting in a line in the grocery store, send some outreach. Hey, you're taking a piss, send some outreach. It's like whenever you find these little pockets of time, just send some outreach, track it after, and those outreach add up. Because the beauty of continually sending outreach is that you start experiencing the compound effect. A lot of my biggest clients, for example, Sona, she's not my biggest client, she only has like 1 million subscribers, but she's one of the biggest in terms of influence that her video had on my career. The video's gotten about 7 million views, and that was the video that got my brand growing. It was the video that got me a lot more clients. The clients attributed to that one video. I've probably made at least like 150, 200k in client work just because of the clients that came from that video. So she's one of like my prized clients, right? I got her through outreach. So I reached out to her, and it was only 4 months later that she actually ended up responding. So I never thought that outreach was effective. I still did it, and I reaped the rewards later. Another thing with the Sidemen was an outreach client. I outreached to them because they were posting a job post, never got it. A year later, they reached out to work together. The deal fell through, so I never worked with them. Outreach again, and then a year later, they actually responded. It was a 2-year process to close them. Now here's the thing, did I spend 2 years like actively trying to work with them? No, I worked with other people. I literally hit 10k a month before I started working with them. But it's just, you realize that even though you're outreaching, you might not be getting responses. By you just consistently chipping away at it, chipping away at the mountain of how many people you can outreach to, you realize that the results compound on themselves. And then after a while, you realize that you're just constantly getting new people coming in who want to work with you, meaning that you can charge more because you have more options, meaning that you enjoy the work more because you can choose who to work with, meaning that you can work less because you're charging more, meaning you can hit your income goals while working less. Everything's a lot nicer when you have options, and you get the options when you've been outreaching consistently. So if you ever ask yourself, hey, am I in the situation that I want? Am I making the amount that I want from editing? Is my editing income as consistent as I want? It's not because of your niche. It's not because the creator left you, because maybe they did, but it's your fault that you didn't plan around it. It's the fact that you haven't been doing the outreach that you know you should have been doing. And if you were doing it, you would have had the options to replace that person as quickly as possible. So I say this out of a place of love because editing has genuinely changed my life. For all the editors inside the editing layer, I give them these lessons because this is the harsh truth they need to hear. There's going to be a small subsection of people watching this where they hate me because it's like, hey, I just want passive clients, which is like, yeah, inbound systems work, but outreach scales you a lot quicker. So there's going to be a small subsection that absolutely hates me for giving them this advice that like, hey, you actually will get better results if you put in the work. But if you're part of the majority who actually understands the advice I'm giving, which is, hey, if you want to hit your income goals, meaning you're not having to work that normal job, you are hitting your income goals, whether it be 5k, 10k a month, you are positioning yourself to scale even further than that once you've gotten there. Yeah, it's going to take some consistent work. This is the outreach strategy that I use. Blast volume, find the winners, dial in and focus. I use the outreach tracker that I've linked in the description. It's completely free. I'd recommend getting that. And if you want to see a real example of me closing clients in DMs, including the entire messaging process, you can watch this video here. So get the outreach tracker, and then you can go watch this video here after. It'll explain how I'm actually closing these clients in DMs.